NBC News is live? Why is NBC News live? Is this gonna be one of those days? I have not been paying attention to the news much. I don't know what's happening. Does anyone in the United States really ever know what's happening at all? That's a good question. It's not one I'm gonna attempt to answer, ever. So, last week, I told you when I made my video on Monday morning that I was feeling great. And I was. And then the fact that I had spent 5 days with 80,000 people hit. And by that I mean I'm still sick. I think it is very important that when you are able to write, like physically and mentally capable of doing it, you should. And when you are just, you can't physically or mentally, that you shouldn't. And I think there's also a difference between like can't and don't want to, and a lot of people don't know how to differentiate between those two things, and I've talked about that on the blog a lot. This past week there were 5 days. It must have been Wednesday through yesterday. I couldn't. I didn't have any zero writing days. I ended up canceling out the zero writing day I had planned for yesterday and wrote something because I am not ahead on blog posts. I can't afford to not write one. So I have been writing one every day, but that's really all I've been doing because all the energy I had was spent taking care of my girl, my dog, going to my day job, which is very important because it's, how I make money. And plus I care about it a lot. My blog, I've not missed a day of posting in 3 years. That doesn't mean I write every day. Sometimes I try to have posts scheduled out so that I don't have to write every day, which means I double up posts some days. But I'm not ahead right now. So I've been doing that. I've had no time for extra things, which means I've been writing less than 1,000 words a day, which means that I am currently counting all the days I was gone last week, which were planned. I'm about 51% of the way to my April goal, and it's April 22nd, which probably means that I'm not going to meet my goal for this month, which means I'm not going to get myself any closer to catching up from being behind the first 2 months of the year. So let's talk about facing the possibility of failure. And I don't mean like accepting that you're going to fail and just like curling up into a ball and letting failure like roll toward you. I mean like working as hard as you can despite the fact that you know you're probably going to fail. I think this is something a lot of people do not know how to do. And it's not their fault. You are not lazy for not knowing how to run headfirst into not being able to succeed. This is not a thing that people are born with. This is not even necessarily something people are taught. It's something that they learn from life experience, which is also hard because the only way to get this kind of experience is to fail a lot. And we're afraid of that. We're afraid of failing just in general. We're also afraid of like working as hard as we possibly can just to fail. So that means that usually if we know that we're going to fail, let me use the example of like biochemistry. Senior year, about at the point where it was too late to drop the class, of course, I realized I was probably not going to pass it. I was going to fail it, actually, like legitimately failing grade. But instead of trying as hard as I could anyway to learn the material and make up for lost things, I didn't try. I saw that I was going to fail and I just gave up. I'm really embarrassed about that. I ended up retaking it eventually and I got a B and it was fine. There were other things going on. It wasn't, whatever. I wish I would have tried harder. Even though I was probably still going to fail at that point anyway, I wish I would have put in the effort and tried. Because I might have learned something. Right now, even if I write 25,000 words this week, which is usually what I have been writing consistently over the past month-ish in a normal week. If I write that much, I will come very close to meeting my goal, but I will not meet it. I will still not get there. I don't know how hard I can push myself, so there's probably not a chance that I could like double up on days and write a whole bunch and make it. 25,000 words is a lot, and it's pretty much my limit. So I am coming into the final full week of April. Is there any April next week? This is the last full week of April. I'm coming into it knowing that no matter how hard I work, no matter how hard I push myself, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to come very close. It's kind of like I'm going to get a B+, but on an A kind of thing. So what do? Do I just sit back and say, oh, I'm not going to make it anyway, never mind? Or do I continue on as normal as I have been, as in like before this week and last week and whatever? What week is it? I can't give up because I still have a much bigger goal to work toward. For those of you who have somehow missed it, I'm trying to write 1 million words this year. And I have written, oh God, not quite 150,000. Nope, just kidding. Over 200,000. My God. I need to be writing more. I need to be 33% of the way to that goal by the end of April, and that's not happening. I could catch up eventually. March was an example of how many words I really can write in a month, over 100,000, apparently. It's not going to be like that every month. Things happen. I'm learning how to balance out my life, which means I'm going to be doing a lot of things that don't involve writing. There's not going to be as much time for it. You can't write all the time. We've already had this conversation. I think you can't just stop trying because you know you're going to fail. Go down fighting. And that's my philosophy for everything. At least it is now. It hasn't always been that way. I have been that person who just wants to give up and doesn't want to face the failure, just wants to like accept, oh, I failed, forget it, never mind. Even if I lose the race, I want to cross that finish line sprinting as hard as I possibly can. That is who I am. And even if you're not that kind of person in other aspects of your life, I think it's possible to become that person creatively. Is it easy? No, of course not. But it makes such a difference. No one likes to be told they're going to fail. No one likes to admit that they're failing. No one likes to look failure in the eye and say, okay, I know that you're coming for me. But you can't just lay down and let it happen. I'm going to get as close to 100% this month as I can. I'm at 51%. That's a lot of percent to go in the next week. And it's only a week, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but you never know. And so you might be asking, what's the point of fighting when you know you're going to lose? Well, then I ask you, what's the point of not fighting? You never know what you're going to learn as you're fighting. You never know what you're going to learn as you're continuing to write, even though you're not going to meet your goal. You never know what you're going to learn as you're continuing to study for that final exam, even though you're not going to pass the class. Life is not about winning or losing. It's about what you're learning and how you're growing along the way. Failure is a better teacher than success. The greatest teacher failure is that even the quote? If I misquote a Star Wars quote in my video, I'm going to be really upset with myself. I would rather fail and be able to say I learned so much than to have succeeded not really having learned a lot. We're so afraid of falling down. We don't realize the ways that we grow as we're trying to get back up. If you never fall, you never have to figure out how to stand up. I don't really have the energy to start talking at you behind imaginary inspirational music. However, I encourage you this week to look at the failures that you're facing and say, bring it on. I'm going to try my best regardless of this imminent failure. You know the other thing? You're going to feel so much better about yourself having tried Have you ever just like given up on something and you just feel terrible? However, even when you fail at something, the fact that you tried so hard and came so close, you don't feel as bad about failing then? I laugh in the face of failure. That's a purposeful misquote. Don't yell at me and say that's not the quote. I know it's not the quote. That's the point. If you know where that's from, leave it in the comments. I'm tired. Write your best this week. That should have been my tagline for all the things. Write your best. I'm not thinking clearly. Goodbye.